Hey Belinda, how you doing?
I'm very well. Thanks, Adam. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for joining me on the Talent Insight podcast. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
So let's dive straight into it. Really keen to hear the journey myself. So do you want to just give the listeners a little bit of an introduction in terms of where you've come from, the journey, and where you are today?
Yeah, sure. I built and sold a couple of my own recruitment agencies over sort of a 16, 17-year period. And for the last 8 years, I've been coaching recruitment founders how to grow and scale their agencies. And that came about because when I sold my second business, I had all these people saying, "Oh, Belinda, you should be a coach." And I think when enough people
Yeah.
tell you you should do something, you start to take it a bit serious. So I started doing that 8 years ago, and over that time, we've sort of transitioned and iterated things to the point now where we offer two programs: the Scale Project, which is a really bespoke, intensive accelerator program for founders looking to grow, and the Growth Club, which is a total other end, which is a community of founders who get together and collaborate, sort of share wisdom, advice, etc.
Yeah.
Along the way, as I said, I've sort of built those, sold them, and then over the last 8 years, the market's obviously changed and the way we do things has changed.
Mm.
I think it's good to be able to take to people what's working now. If you want a progressive agency now, what do you need to be doing across all areas of your business? Marketing, operations, leveraging VAs, tech, AI, people, the whole shebang. So we
Yeah.
come at it quite holistically. And that's where my experience is good because I've got the experience building it. I've kind of touched all areas of the business, and I'm so passionate about small business. I just love it. In fact,
Mm.
I like small business, the whole sort of game of small business, probably more than recruitment, even though I love
Okay.
recruitment. And so
Yeah.
it kind of made sense to land where I've landed now, coaching
Yeah.
founders who are trying to get to that next level.
Yeah. Awesome. So what was it about recruitment in the first place? How did you get into
Ha! Well, I
it?
used to, it's kind of funny because I used to, when back in the day, when recruitment advertising was done in the newspaper, I worked on the
Yeah.
Sydney Morning Herald and I used to sell recruitment advertising. And when I say
Wow.
sell, it used to just come flying in the door from all of the big companies. They'd be fighting over positioning. And I was dealing with recruitment agency owners all the time, big and small. And that kind of just made me think about the industry. And
Mm.
I kind of got quite interested in it. And then I left and I did a season in the snow and I went and did something else for a year. And then I don't know, it just sort of was in the back of my mind. So I decided that I would go and check it out and went to a rec to rec and in I went from there.
Yeah, yeah, wow, that's interesting. So, in terms of, did you miss any? Do you miss the recruitment aspect of like today? Like, is there anything about the kind of the running of the day to day agency that you kind of miss at the moment?
I do. I miss a couple of things. I miss I've got my own clients now, but I miss that whole
Yeah,
client conversation and that sort of competitive edge against pitching against other people and getting your
mm,
agency in there and doing a good job. I miss
yeah,
that, the kind of, and then running the show. So having a team and seeing them come on and grow. I do miss that, but it's kind of a double-edged sword. I miss it and I don't. There's three of
yeah,
us in this business and it's so easy to manage and to run. And
yeah,
managing the biggest we got to was a team of about 15 people. And it really is a double-edged sword. I'd love it one day and hated it the next. And I work from home now too, and so we were in an office, and I do miss that
yeah,
kind of having a bigger group of people around, going to lunches and doing all that kind of fun stuff as well.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's very different what I do. Yeah, but yes, in
It is.
short, I do, but not enough to go back to it. I like what I'm doing now for my stage of life and what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah,
doing what I love.
yeah, awesome. Do you want to talk into that and just give us a kind of a rundown of like what that kind of looks like in terms of some of the work that you do with these founders? And I'd imagine there's a massive I think we spoke about in the past where people have gone from like being successful in an agency and then decided to set up on their own, and it's obviously that comes with a lot of challenges that people don't kind of realize. So,
Yeah.
what do you find like? What's working with these founders like? Start with that. What you do first of all with them, and what's some of the challenges that you seem to face with them?
Yeah, sure. So we work within a framework, and we have so if I think about the scale project, which is kind of our main deal, we have a framework. It's called the scale project, and inside that we
Mm,
look at attracting. So that's, identifying people, building your brand, that type of thing, building your funnel, and then converting that into business. So nurturing people, because we know that, 3% of people that you speak to in the beginning aren't going to buy from you. So we want to nurture them and close that business and deliver the delivery piece. And then the other big piece is leverage. So that's, resources, that systems, automation, those sorts of things. So everything fits somewhere. No matter what you're doing in your business, it'll fit somewhere in there. And for different people, it's different stages. So some people will come to me and they'll say, Belinda, I've been in business for 8 years. I've got this massive database. It's a mess. I reckon there's money in there. Can we, we need to be getting, it's usually around money and time. I want
Yeah.
more money or more time, more candidates, more clients, sort of somewhere in that. And so then we'll start there. We'll look at that and we'll clean that up. Other people will come and they'll go, I don't have nearly enough clients. So we'll start there. It just depends on where people can sort of land in any part of that framework. Or they might be doing all that really well, but it's time for them to scale and grow and look more seriously at automation, tech, those kinds of things. So we'll start there. And then we have a bunch of experts in our realm that work very closely with us as well around marketing, LinkedIn, AI, automation, business advisory. What else have I forgotten? Something else. And we then have a marketing and ops team who'll implement for people. So
Yep.
whichever area they're at in their business, we'll go to first. We don't run a course. It's not sort of come in here, do the course, and out you pop the other end. You come in, we look at your business, where you're at, and go, where are the bottlenecks? Where do you want to get to? All right, what do we need to work on first? And then within that framework, we go to what we head to what they need first.
Yep.
But often if it's clients, we look at the client strategies that we've got. If it's what we find too, Adam, is a lot of businesses, once they've been in business for a while, they create all these assets that they're not leveraging, and database is an obvious one, knowledge is another one, network is another one. So often we'll get some easy wins by building some strategies into those to leverage what they've already done.
Yeah.
And then our goal is, what do you want to, what's your goal in 12 months? And then we just break it
Yeah.
up into quarterly milestones, 6-week sprints, and then off we go.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I remember, like, when I set up on my own for the first time, like, going from that, because you sit in an agency and you kind of sit there, and you're successful, you're billing, you go, why can't I do this on my own? And you like, this is so easy. I've got, like, all I've got to do, I've built in a database pretty much, and then you go alone, and then you kind of underestimate the fact that you're that person chasing the invoices, you're doing the sales calls, you're filling the jobs, there's so advertising the roles, there's so many different aspects of the recruitment role that you did in agency, but you also had a finance department chasing the invoices if it wasn't paid, or you kind of get stuck in that day-to-day grind of you seem like you're really busy, but maybe I would imagine what these founders need is someone from the externally to actually view the business from an external point of view, because you're so stuck into that daily grind of getting stuff done, but maybe busy in the wrong areas. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, it's such a good point that you make, because what happens is, and I did it too, we've all done it. You look at your desk and you go, okay, I'm doing 400K or whatever it is a year. If I go out on my own, I can keep all of that instead of just getting my base and commission or however it's structured.
Yeah.
But what you forget is that there's
This
this
is
whole
it.
machine behind you helping you deliver that 400,000. Like you
Yeah.
said, there's someone's paying the bills, someone's, if you're in an office, someone's organizing the office, they're paying the rent, they're fixing the printer, they're looking at the terms of business, they're getting the insurances, they're doing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But you as a recruiter is not on your radar. And
Yeah.
then you get into your own business, there's a few extra things here to do. And
Yeah.
then the next thing that happens, so you start, you build, you're getting up and running and you're going, and then after a while, you sort of think, God, I'm not doing as well as I did in the agency, and then doubt creeps in as well. People start thinking, oh,
That's
maybe
right.
I'm not meant to be a business owner. But all it is that you've taken the job that you had, and you've just added another like 50-60% onto it in the same
That's
time
right.
frame, and given yourself the same goals,
Yeah.
and you just can't squeeze it all in. And a lot of the stuff that you're trying to squeeze in is stuff that you haven't been doing. You're trying to do it in you might have a certain amount of business savvy and intuition, but a lot of it's stuff that you just don't know. Like, I didn't have I did have I was going to say I didn't have a clue how to read a P&L. I did, because I was running a business, but I didn't understand before I went into business. If you'd said to me like what a P&L was,
Mm.
a P of what? A lot of
Yeah.
people starting business, they
Yeah.
don't understand the finances and they're trying to learn all this stuff as well. So not only
Yep.
did they have somebody doing it for them before, not only do they now have to do it, but they have to learn what to do as well. So
That's right.
in all of that, there's a lot of lessons around, well, what do I keep? What do I delegate? What do I actually need to learn to run my business? And like skills I need to get, like for example, understanding your financials. And what is it that I can outsource? Like you don't need to know how to replace a video on a landing page. So that would be
Yep.
something that you'd outsource. So people need to start to tease out what they need to learn and what they can delegate. And that's a really good
Mm.
place to start. So if
Yep.
you've got you're running your recruiting bit over here, and then you're over here running the business. This is where you need to learn and change and understand and strategize.
Yep.
And so if you can start looking at what you can delegate, anything that's outside your outside your skill set and your outside your skill set and under your pay. I always get this mixed up. Outside your skill set and below your pay grade, you want to
Yeah.
start thinking about that and looking at what you do need to. But that's why business owners become so busy, because they they leave one job, they buy another job, they stick them both together and expect to be able to do them both in the same time.
Yeah. That's
Um,
right. That's right. And it's challenging. And do you find this kind of like, do they need to get to a certain point before they can even kind of afford to delegate? Because, like, say, at the start, it's all hands on deck and looking to try and make as many placements as you possibly can to get money in the bank. Do you
yeah.
find that there's a certain point where you could go, right, now let's review where you've gone in the last sort of 6, 12 months, and now let's start looking at what we can actually automate, what you're good at, what you're not so good at? And is that how you tend to work?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I think delegating is one of those things. The sooner you can start to do it, the better. And the reason is because to build that muscle, it's one of the things
Mm,
I fight most with. Again, like agencies fight me on it. Oh no, I just want to do it myself. Like, no one can do it like me. But I'm like, okay, well
yeah,
that's fine, but you're not going to grow. You want to do everything
yeah,
yourself and have it perfect. You're going to get to here. But if you're happy
yeah,
to delegate it and have it to be 90%,
yeah,
good enough. No, I'm not saying be
yeah.
sloppy, but to be good enough, then you're going to grow a lot faster. And so I always say to people, just even as early on as you can, start delegating. Just even if it's just getting a VA for a couple of hours a week to do some
Mm,
stuff to help you build the muscle. There's been lots of studies done that show founders that start, and the earlier that they delegate and they understand that they're buying their time back,
yeah,
they do better long term than the ones that come in and just try and bootstrap everything and just do everything on their
mm,
own. Because what happens
yep,
is they start doing all this stuff that they're not really good at. It sucks up their time, and then they're doing less and less on what they should be doing. So you can imagine if you could have even just half a day a week freed up, somebody
yep,
else doing all the stuff you don't need to be doing, over a month, that's 2 days. How many clients
yeah,
can you speak to in that time? You just need to
yeah.
get one more job on and fill it. And you've paid for like that resource for a couple of years.
That's so true. Yeah,
So I always say as soon as possible. Um, so it's not like you get to one point and you go, right now I'm going to delegate everything. Like as soon as, if you're from day one, or maybe not day one, but like, the first couple of weeks, months, definitely
yeah,
start delegating low level things, build that muscle. And like once you start delegating and you can see the results and how much time it frees up, you know, you never go back.
yeah. Do you find it's changed much, like the recruitment over time? Do they still? Do you still convince them to actually they need to still do those sales calls, need to be getting on the phone, need to be getting out in front of these clients? Because that was kind of back in recruitment when I started, those sort of KPIs. And I still think that there needs to be an element of that. But do you find that some of these founders, the reason they're stuck in it is because they're not doing enough of that kind of business development aspect of the role?
It's honestly, it's different with every person I speak to,
Mm,
but across the board, you know, we want to be speaking to people. We're in the people business. Whether
mm,
that's, face to face or on the telephone or like what at a conference, whatever that looks like, we want to be moving always towards doing that. Um,
yeah,
People kind of always equate this. They'll sort of say, "Oh, should people still be cold calling?" Well, there's you've got the outliers out there, those mavericks who can just go out there and still do it that way. But the thing is, we know this, like people don't answer their phones. I even heard something the other day where Apple have now, is it Apple? I think they're
That's
putting
right. Yeah,
something
Apple.
in.
Yeah. So there's a new cold calling. It's going to put a stop to the cold calling. Apparently. Yeah.
I saw that. I thought that was
Mm,
interesting. So look, if you're, I don't see many people who just rely on cold calling and it works. But
mm,
having said that, I think what we've got now is an opportunity with marketing because marketing now is responsible for 70% of your results as opposed to sales, which it used to be when I started and we just hit the desk and hit the phones. So I think a
yeah.
much better way, and this is where I do see people winning, Adam, is if you can, like, let's just use this example. So on LinkedIn, if you start to follow people for a few days and then you start liking their liking their posts and commenting with value on their posts, then perhaps
Yep.
do, a DM and introduce yourself, and then you call them, it's a different
Mm,
story. So if you
that
warm
is.
them up first and then make the cold call, air quotes,
Yeah.
um,
But
that
it's then a
will,
warm call, isn't it? Because
well, it
in
is a
that
warm
regard.
call, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a cold call. There's lots of different ways that you can connect the dots now. You just need to be strategic about it and get in a process and a rhythm. But to answer
Mm,
your question, I don't think that purely cold calling and relying on that is smart anymore because you've got so many other levers you can pull at scale that will help
yeah.
people understand who you are, where you are, what you do,
Mm,
such that when you do speak with them,
yeah.
they are ready and listening. Have you heard about I don't know what's called, there's a Google study they did. I can't remember. It's got a name. I can't remember. And it's called I think it's like the 7-11-10, or I always get it wrong. But basically what it says is for people to buy from you now, they can find out so much about you online. And typically they need 7 touch points. No,
Mm,
7 hours of content across 11 touch points and 5 different media, I think it is.
yeah.
Forgetting the numbers, what it's saying is we need people to be seeing us. We need to be omnipresent. And
Yeah.
then when we do connect with people, they're more likely to go, oh, yeah, I know who you are. But if they haven't got a
Yeah.
clue who you are and you reach out to them, they're going to think, oh, is this just an automated message? Is it AI? Like, we're
Yeah.
very cynical now as to what that context is of calling them.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest change, I think, in terms of if you look back from when like 2005 I got into recruitment, like that was just literally picking up the phone and like having a conversation. Whereas now, like you're right in what you're saying in terms of that personal brand and getting yourself out there, getting in front of people, like being in front of people so they actually know who you are. Do you advise those founders that have now gone alone is that something that you kind of work with them on as well in terms of like building that presence and build personal brand?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So for because I work with smaller businesses, they're usually about one
Mm,
to five staff,
yeah.
sometimes more, but probably a third to half of them would be one person businesses, maybe with some VA support, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But their personal brand is so much more important than their company brand. Most recruitment businesses never sell. And
Mm,
one of the big reasons that you would build a company brand is you're going to get more of a multiple when you sell it if you've got a really strong
yeah.
company brand, but most don't. And it's not the number one priority. So they absolutely need to be building their personal brand and be out in front and seen. And what's really
Yeah.
interesting, one of the guys, Martin, who did my program a while ago, he now has a podcast. And I was talking to him recently and he said, I'm one person with a couple of VAs. He goes, everyone thinks I've got like 20 people in my office because
Yeah. Well.
perception's a reality. So his market, who are the building environs, so construction
Yeah.
companies and those guys, they all think that he's big. And one
Mm,
of the biggest construction companies in Victoria, I think it was Victoria, not Australia, I think it was Victoria,
yeah.
um, rang him recently and said, hey, we want to be in your podcast. And he was like, amazing. So now he's in with these
Yeah.
guys that are running, this big construction company, and I'm sure he'll start to get some work from them. So absolutely
Yeah.
it's important. But I think a lot of people fall over in understanding how to do that and how to squeeze it into their day. And there are clever
Mm.
ways to do that.
There is, and it's also realizing it's the long that personal brand is not quick wins. It's not that you're not just going to pick up jobs straight away just because you're putting yourself out there, and it's like it's actually playing that long game and not just getting those, like say, just the quick wins that you typically would get, like what you would expect by just picking up the phone. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
you say, it's actually generating more like those scenarios are more creating more warm leads rather than it being completely cold. And I think that's the key there.
And I think you've got to try things. You got to do it in sort of an empirical way. You've got to try things and give it a go and measure it and see what happens. It's a little bit of art, a little bit of science. One in Growth Club this morning, we have a session every Friday morning, and one of the guys, he was telling me a couple of weeks ago, someone came to him with this really cheap offer for a billboard. And it was good because it was in an area where there were a lot of, he's in the landscaping recruitment business.
Okay.
And it was in an area that I think a lot of those guys were floating around. And he goes, I'll give it a go. Anyway, he said to me, he goes, Belinda, I have to share something today. He goes, somebody saw it, a really big contractor. And they rang and said, hey, I saw your billboard. Obviously, that's made him look a lot bigger than he is probably as well.
Yeah.
And he's just signed a big contract with them. And
yeah, well,
if he'd have said to me, Belinda, do you think I should have tried billboard advertising? I go, don't be stupid.
yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah. It's so true, though,
tried
isn't it? It's what not one thing fits all. Like it's actually you've got to be able to mix it up and actually like say it's not just a case of just doing LinkedIn DMs. It's doing the calls. It's doing your personal branding, doing a billboard. It's like it could be anything.
It's finding what works for you. Everybody wants this magic sauce. Well, there's hundreds of ways that you can get clients, but you've got to do it in such a way that suits you and makes you happy and enjoy what you're doing. I mean, I've got people who are doing podcasts and they love it and they're doing really well. I've got other people who would rather die than sit in front of a video. So they do more strategic, they'll do like white papers and other things that they like to do, or they might be really good writers and they'll give value that way and build their audience that way. I don't believe in sort of shoehorning people into doing stuff in a particular way just because it sort of suits my business and the way I want people to do things to suit me. I think you've got to go with like people's personality and what's going to be better for them. And there is a strategy for every single personality to get business.
Yeah, awesome. So what's the first thing you would do then with the founder? So say for instance, if I had a recruitment agency, I was on my own, just a single founder, how would the process be? Like say for instance, we were to work together, like what's the first thing you do and the process from there?
Great question. Well, the first thing we do is we want to understand what's important to you, what you're trying to create, because you're creating a business for you and your family to pay your mortgage, to help your kids get through school. It's not about your clients or your candidates. If you're happy in creating the business that you want, then everybody else is going to be happy in tow. So the first thing is understanding what it is for you, where you want to go. And then we bring it back and we look at the bottlenecks. So what are the bottlenecks that you're facing right now? Oh, Belinda, I'm really, really busy and I need to get out there and get more jobs on. Okay. So we kind of work out where you're at, and then we'll sort of start working on the right things. But if you sort of think of the foundations and the steps that need to be in place to make a business work, what we're also looking for is, okay, have they got a niche? You have to have a niche these days. I don't help anybody who is a generalist recruiter, because I every now and then you'll see somebody as a generalist recruiter do well, but very rarely. And I think it's really important to have a niche. So we'll make sure that they're articulating their message to the market and what they do really well. So if that's a tick and they've already done that, we don't have to worry about it. If they haven't, we will. So often people will come to me, Adam, and they'll have not been too long in business and they've got their legacy clients, they're trying to carve out a niche and they're sort of taking all things, and they'll say, well, what do? I don't want to let go of that money. So there's two things they can do. They can keep going with those, but focus over here on what you want to grow and just sort of run this in the background. Or you can look for other people to partner with that are doing the roles. Like there's organizations like NPA, for example, who've got lots and lots of members who are sharing jobs and doing different things, but really we want them focusing on one niche. And then the second part is going out and identifying that market, so mapping out your market and then starting to build a funnel to make sure that people are coming through, and then we're sort of making sure that your outwardly facing messaging is right, your branding is consistent, your LinkedIn profile looking good, all that kind of basic stuff, that because people are looking at your LinkedIn profile and then looking at your website, you just want all that to be, it doesn't have to be, award-winning stuff, but your LinkedIn profile needs to be really good, your website needs to be there, and so that branding piece, start to build your funnel. And then from there, that's kind of your foundations. When I say foundations, if you're starting a business, obviously there's other things to think about, like terms of business, but I don't work with people who
Yeah,
are just starting. They've already got their
yeah.
businesses going.
They've already got it up. Yeah,
And then we want to look at the assets, what you've already got, and how we can nurture those people that are coming into your world, because people lose so much money there. So we want to
yeah,
make sure that we are nurturing and getting systems and processes in place to leverage what you've already got. Make sure that your processes. So, what's your sales process look like? How are you closing people? Usually, people have got the sales process and the delivery piece. Like, that's usually the best bit that they've got.
yeah. Okay.
And then all the way through that, we want to then start looking at how can we leverage the process? How can we build in systems and processes and automation to make this
Mm.
go faster? Do we need to start now building in VAs and other support? Is it time to build a team member? So all this hinges on what the goals are. So I might get somebody who says, I don't ever want to hire anybody. I just want to work 4 hours a week and I want to do $300,000 a year. Well, that's going to be a very different strategy than someone who comes in and goes, I want to be the next Hayes, Belinda. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get you a certain way.
Yeah.
I don't know I can get you that far, but I can get
Yeah.
you a certain way. So it depends, where we go with them then depends on what they're trying, what's the end game for them. And then
Yeah.
we just work with people. We have, so myself, we catch up every week. I do one-on-ones with them, and then we have experts, as I said before, that come in and, did I say that before? Experts that come in and do sessions on different things.
Mm.
We catch up and we do keep people accountable and we do 6-week sprints to keep them working on projects, because
Yep.
recruitment is kind of like an ongoing thing. Running a business, you want to be working on different projects at any one time and building out those projects one at a time, so that
Mm.
your business is sort of, the bricks in your business are growing and growing and growing all the time. Where people make the mistake when they're, a lot of times when they're on their own, they start this project, they start that project. I've got to fix my website. I've got to do some
Yeah,
automation.
I'm
I've got to
guilty of
get more
that.
clients. I've got to do some BD, and it just becomes this big mess. So
Yeah.
we pull it all out, put it into a real structure, so that every week you know what you're doing. Then we tick that
Mm.
project off. Then we move to the next one. So that's
Yep.
probably. In fact, we didn't always do that, and when we implemented that, that was a game changer for people, because they stopped just sort of flitting around from here to there.
Yeah, I think that's where where me personally, that's where I went wrong. Looking back, I think it was just you try your best to have the daily structure and stick to your daily structure, but it was that thing. Oh, I've got an idea, I'll just start that, and then it's like, oh, I've got this idea, and I'll just start that, and then it's like chasing an invoice, or it's like, and you're just getting pulled from pillar to post. And like I said earlier, I think having someone from an external point of view and seeing that and going, right, this is where you need to focus. This is your strong points, and I think that would make a massive difference with these starting founders.
Yeah, because every time you're moving tasks, there's been studies done. Every time you move a task, it takes you
Mm.
15 minutes to get back on track. And so
Yep.
all this sort of, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were together with their father. It must have been years ago, with their father, or one of their fathers, and they said, what's been the success of your business? And they both scribbled down on a piece of paper and didn't show each other, and then they revealed it, and they both said focus.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time, this fragmented, like, just mishmash of stuff being done. And
Mm.
it comes about because recruiters, they're high energy, they're entrepreneurial, and they are ideas people. And so
Yeah.
it's a blessing and a curse. You get all these ideas, but if you can, actually, we did a session on this morning. If you can compartmentalize your week into certain areas and just like, okay, for the next hour, I'm just going to be doing my invoicing, or for this hour, I'm going to be doing BD calls, or
Yeah.
if you can make yourself stick to that as best you can. And when you have those ideas, like you just said, oh, I should pay that invoice, get it out of your head, write it on a piece of paper, but don't do it
Mm.
then. Like,
Yeah.
just get it down and worry about it later. Get it out of your head, because if it's in your head, it'll keep coming back, and then you'll just get more distracted.
Yeah.
And I'm even losing my focus now talking about it.
So you mentioned about niche. Like, how niche would you recommend people go? Like, because I know that you could go down to like industry, or like, would you go down as far as being very specific about like roles that you would recruit for? Do you recommend like how niche people should be going?
Yeah, such a good question. Well, there's a few things that few ways you can kind of think about niche. So you can think about industry specific, and you could go, okay, we just go on this sort of specific, this narrow industry, but we do everything within it.
Yep.
Sometimes that can work. Or, accounting is a good example of going broad based, but doing one function. So we just focus
Yep.
on, placing accountants.
Yep.
So you can place accountants in any industry, but it's the accountants that you're doing. So then the job becomes that. It can be level led as well. We're only just gonna do C-suite executive stuff.
Yep.
But typically it's a bit of both. Typically people will have an industry and then they'll kind of do a certain role within that industry. And the way to think about it is you want to go wide enough so that you've got enough revenue coming in, you've got enough opportunity, you've got enough market opportunity, but narrow as you can to maintain the specifics. So it's a balance. You don't want to go so tight that there's only 10 companies in your business and you're only got 3 roles. But if it's a bigger market and maybe you've got 3% of the market now, I mean it's one industry, then you've got plenty of area to go within that before you're maxed it out. So when people think about niche, they absolutely need to look at the market. How many other competitors are in it? If there's no competitors, there's probably no market there. But you want to have a reasonable amount of competitors because that shows you that the business is there. And then look across the market, map the market, and look at the potential that's there. And I don't think people do that to enough degree. Sometimes they'll kind of think, oh yeah, this is pretty big market, I'll do that. But sometimes when you look into it, if there's a big move, for example, to be, building their internal talent teams in that market, if they're bigger companies and they're going to be starting to use more TA and not use recruiters, if there's a trend towards that, then I would be moving away from that industry and going somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. And do you find there's like there's a trend of founders that have gone from agency, set up on their own? Is there a trend in the ones that are actually doing really well, like have been more successful?
100%.
Like what's the difference?
100%. So easy. And then it comes exactly back to what I said about focus. I've had people come through my program that, and I've learnt more now about the people that I can't help and the people that I can help.
Yeah. Okay.
So if I speak to someone and they're doing, $15,000 a month, like, I want to be doing 2 million by the end of the year, and you just think, okay, you might be wanting a little bit too soon. And then somebody else will come in and they'll go, I'm doing this, but I reckon that doubling my revenue by the end of the year is realistic because of this. And then they come in and they, a bit like we were saying before about Adam, about working on the projects and taking the steps. It's the people who are prepared to do the boring stuff that the profit is hidden in. So by that I mean starting a process and running it and not giving up. So for example, if you're going to start a podcast, most podcasts only last 6 episodes because people get all excited and then they give up. But if you go from 6 to 36, I can guarantee you it's from that 6 to 36 that's going to start to be, you're going to build your brand, more people are going to see it, and then you're going to start to get the leverage. So people who want the really quick wins and don't have the patience to do the work and build things step by step, they're the ones that fail.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's interesting, isn't it? It's it's that mundane, daily things that you need to be getting done that's people aren't willing to do.
Yep.
No, that's awesome. Let's talk about Growth Club then. So, like, what was your thinking behind setting that up?
Behind Growth Club?
Growth Club, yeah.
It was a bit of a passion project to start with, to be honest. I think there's a lot of founders out there. I think we all, and me too, I think we all like to be part of a community, a part of a tribe. And so I set it up so that founders could come together, share ideas, share their wisdom. And it's kind of a high volume thing. So the club's bigger. So the entry, like we only charge $47 US a month for people to join. And it's a place that we can create for people to keep in touch, learn ideas, because a lot of these small business owners feel very alone, and they can, create a bit of a tribe, collaborate. We've got people sharing jobs, sharing tools. Like this morning, there was a couple of tools that were shared for different things, and somebody was talking about an idea around, like one person was having problems with being interrupted all the day. He had a small team and he's being interrupted, and one of the other team members was sharing what they did to kind of manage their time. And
Yep.
so I think there's a lot of power and wisdom in community. And
Yep.
we have a lot of fun too. So we learn, we have fun. It's not too structured, but it's more just that place to go to collaborate. And it's been going 2 years now, and I'm finding that
Yeah. Well.
the people who want to collaborate, want to have some fun, and want to be around other people, it's a good place for them. The kind of lone wolves, it's not really the right place for.
Okay. Yep.
But,
And is it Australia wide? Do you find they're all over?
worldwide. So my
World?
business runs
Okay.
across North America and APAC. So we've got about half
Yeah.
and half.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And what's been the most surprising thing to come out of Growth Club that you've seen in that 2 years?
The it's probably not quite the right word, but the camaraderie. Like, as people have got
Yep.
to know each other more and more, the personality of the communities kind of come out. And if I was to describe it, it absolutely would be fun, a bit cheeky, but very focused in terms of the people in there want to create good businesses, and they do. So that was
Yeah.
it was, I guess, surprising to see how the personalities have gelled and how it's just kind of come together as a supportive group. That's probably the
Yep.
best way to articulate it, but that's kind of how I see it.
No, that's awesome. That sounds really good. And so I want to shift it a little bit, just in regards to the future of where you see kind of recruitment agencies going. Obviously, there's a lot of talk at the moment with like AI, and kind of that contingent model, kind of not, I wouldn't say breaking or not being a requirement, but where do you see it going? Like, what do you see there being a big change in terms of recruitment in the coming like 2, 3, 5 years?
I do. And I would be very arrogant to try and predict what I thought it was going to be. It was really interesting. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening to I try and listen to the guys that are like running AI, and it's funny when you listen to these people speak on podcasts, they're all predicting different things, and you think, God, if they don't know where it's going, how can we? That's just sort of the more broader level. But if I think about it practically, AI, I think it's every 3.3 months, the power of AI is doubling. So in 5 years' time, it will be 1 million more times powerful than it is now.
Yeah.
That's insane. So I can't wrap my head around that. But what that does tell me is that absolutely things will be changing. And, I don't, you hear people saying, what is it? AI is not going to, what is that saying? I hear it all the time. AI is not going to take your, what's the saying I'm looking for, Adam? AI is not going to take your job. You know what I'm looking for, don't you?
I know what you're saying. Yeah. I can't think of the actual saying now.
AI is going to take a lot of jobs. Like, that's just and it's already doing that. Like, McDonald's are running all of their it's just all through chat now. There's no humans that touch it. They've got Olivia doing that. So volume recruitment, forget it. I think temp's gonna
That's right.
all that stuff's just gonna go. It's just
so like
gone.
your drivers, your cleaners, like those sort of roles where it was literally like sign them up straight in. That could go. That could be replaced.
And I think that it almost seems naive to say this, but I think that the consultants who aren't learning AI and just keeping in the conversation now are just going to get left behind. Like, I try and keep up with the conversation as much as I can. I only learned about agentic. I came across the term agentic AI myself probably the first time 4 weeks ago. I'm like, what the hell's that? And so I had to go and look it up and see. And now I know. So now when I hear people talking about agentic AI, I know what they're talking about. But if I'm sort of not keeping up now, and they're talking about, and I'm going, what the hell's that? And then there's the next thing that comes along on top of that, then where does that leave me? I think companies are going to be looking more to recruiters to help them manage their internal recruitment process as well, like embedding AI tools and keeping up with the change in the way recruitment's done. I think companies, because they're flying blind as well. So I think if recruitment recruiters can add value there and look for other ways to add value outside of recruitment. I think that's really smart.
Yeah.
People say executive recruitment's safe. I don't know.
Mm.
So to answer your question, Adam, I don't really know how it's going to change. I just know that it is.
Yeah.
Like this time in 2 years, the whole landscape's going to look a whole lot different.
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting because I had a guy, Adam Gordon, who runs Poetry. I don't know if you're aware of him.
Yeah.
He's basically, we're talking about hiring enablement. So actually, there's a role for someone to actually go into these organizations and actually look at how. So instead of just backfilling an opportunity, it's like, right, okay, well, what can the AI do in this role that we don't need anymore?
Yeah.
And actually enabling that. And it would be, I do think that it's going to replace roles, but I also think it's going to create opportunities as well, like for people, for those that are actually getting on board with it and understand AI. But it'd be interesting to see what the landscape looks like in a couple of years from a recruitment perspective, because I think you're right in terms of those that are just basically filling roles. I think that's probably the ones that are a bit more at risk, like those that can go in and look at, like, I don't know, process improvement, or actually offering a lot more from a consultancy perspective, rather than it just being a case of we could just backfill that opportunity that you've got live at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. And I think there'll be surprises too. Like already we're hearing things about how AI is not quite going where we thought it would go. So things like, some of the automated recruitment processes have just backfired on AI and companies. Some of the privacy issues that have come up. What are some of the other ones that I've heard? Companies there was a big report that came out the other day about, at the moment at least, how AI in a lot of ways is actually sucking up more time as people try and understand what they're supposed to be doing with it and how how they're doing it in the day. And I can't see that that's going to get any easier. I think that's going to get harder as AI gets smarter, because I asked you the question yesterday. We were on the Tech Savvy podcast, we were talking to Billy from Bullhorn. He's involved in their automation, their new AI Amplify AI. And I said the question to him, well, if AI is moving so quickly, how do you guys keep up? Like by the time you build something, it must be something else. And he was saying we're just always looking to the market to see what they want and then building those things out as they want. You don't sort of do the whole thing at once. And I think recruitment's going to be a bit like that. It's like, oh, this change, that change, this change. We're going to just have to keep up as we go along.
And I think I find it really difficult picking like the good platforms that I'll see it looks great on screen, or you'll see I'll try that one, and then you get into it, it's a little bit clunky and still not kind of as smooth as you initially thought, like AI assistants, for instance, or there's various other platforms. But I always find picking the ones that are going to have the most sort of benefit to you. I really struggle with that, because there's still a lot of rubbish out there at the moment, I think
there's a big gap between where we are now and where we'll be. We're still in the Wild West, and there's going to be a real consolidation, and it's starting to happen already. There's already got guys that are falling off. There's companies that are buying up other companies, and then there's players starting to emerge that seem to be the cream of the crop, and there's the gaps widening. So I think the Wild West will start to move into a more of a mature stage, if you like. And as we get more intuitive and there's more support out there to talk about AI, and like you said, with Poetry and different companies that are coming up to guide people through it, we'll mature and it won't be so hard. Andrew and I started the Tech Savvy podcast to try and bridge that gap between tech and recruitment founders. And what we've found is that so much tech is created without really understanding what the founders need, and half the time the founders don't even know what they need until they see it. So there's still a big gap between, someone comes out and goes, I've got a great idea, and they build it, and they go, well, actually there's no real use case for it. So the guys developing all these products need to be really in tune with what the actual recruiters want. And I like you said, it's hard to understand. So products that are built that are easy to understand and easy to install, if you can do that, you're a mile ahead. And because there is so much you can build into platforms, people are kind of seduced by building more in and buying more capability when
Yeah.
you don't need it. Look at the iPhones. 20 years ago, they just rang and we answered and we spoke to them. How much functionality on your phone do you
Yeah.
actually have that you don't use?
Yeah.
So I think
I'm trying
sometimes
to be honest with you. I've been thinking about going the other way. The dumb phones, where it's like you've got no apps on it. Like I'd love to go down that route where you kind of get rid of that scrolling. Like, I'm not on any social media anyway, apart from LinkedIn, and I'm on YouTube, but that's about it.
it's really interesting. I think I was reading a thing about Stephen Bartlett wrote the other day about social media and
Mm,
where it's going next, and he talks about um, the in real life, like which is social but not so much social media, and
yeah.
deeper dive content, more community led, community based content, and not this whole like go viral, get tons and tons of impressions, and bringing it
Mm,
very much back to the just the real people communication, which feels to me like bringing it back to the simplicity
full circle.
that, yeah, because as humans we naturally want simplicity. We don't actually like
Mm.
complication. If you go into a shop and you've got a choice between black and red, or you've got a choice between black, red, yellow, pink, green, blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
over here this is where we want to be. Over here, just give me black or red and let me make a decision. So it would
Yep.
be interesting to see, with all this, you know um I don't know what's the word, just like overwhelm of AI,
Yeah. Yeah.
where we land.
Yeah. It's almost too many options.
I know.
Yeah, that's right. But no, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Belinda. Thank you for taking the time to speak. But before we go, can you just give us kind of the listeners where we can reach out to you? What's the best platforms, best way to contact you?
The easiest place to get me is just Belinda Kerr on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Easiest way.
Awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you. Sorry, I know I talk a lot, but hopefully there was some value in there.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Adam.